Shall we invite the deputations in, please? As members are aware, the housing panel will need to use this venue. Will clash with this meeting, so Mr. Fernando Chung and myself will have to shuffle between these two meetings. The housing panel was aborted due to lack of quorum.
第三個議程嘅先至。呢
度後邊呢度係啦，咁就兩份文件啦，民政介紹跟住就考出咗個講 PowerPoint，
OK，
跟住就問。
係我哋開始。
Right. This meeting is in session. Deputations are coming in. The first item is promoting community economy. We visited Japan and Taiwan and had a look at the community economy, and we have the third paper. We invited the administration for this item. They will be represented, but the administration is not involved in community economy, and they will have the HAB represented here, although they will not be making any response. Well, they are here for the ESR item. These are my words. Maybe they don't have the relevant policy, and they will address the points that they are able to address, and they may not be able to respond to points that fall outside their portfolio. They are going to speak on the second item, the SER or ESR. Shall we invite the administration in as well, please?
各位團體嘅代表，大家可以留意你。
Deputations, please, Channel 1 Cantonese, 2 English. I will be calling upon you to speak in turn. You'll be restricted to 3 minutes. Just a reminder that you will not be protected under Cap 328, Powers and Privileges Ordinance. We have received your submissions. Again, they will not be protected under the PNP. This is by way of reminder. All right, let's make a start. Let's proceed in accordance with the order of the seating plan. Administration, not yet.
好，我哋歡迎
Welcome. 3 representatives from the HAB. Okay, let's make a start. Each deputation will be restricted to 3 minutes. There will be a buzz by the time the round comes to an end. All right, let's wait for the administration to be seated. I don't mind this goes towards my 3 minutes. I'm here to talk about the cooperatives. I am speaking on the cooperatives for the benefit of the officials. I hope that you would know what they are. There is a disparity in wealth between the rich and the poor in Hong Kong, which is a serious problem. Now, what is the importance of the cooperatives? There are lots of low-skilled people who cannot work, find a job in Hong Kong with the production shifted across the boundary. There are many housewives who have to be cooped up at home looking after their families. And instead of collecting CSSA, they form themselves into cooperatives. But these come under the supervision of the AFCD. These housewives may be running a kiosk in university. They may be running a cleaning company, and they are serving the community. But surprisingly, this comes under the AFCD. Is this reasonable? The Civic Party will not be the first party to talk about it, nor will we be the last one to talk about it. I hope the administration would address the fact that it is not justified for this to come under the AFCD. Under the ordinance, the members of the cooperatives are on a voluntary basis. They have to look after the accounting, the sales, and all the rest of it. They have to submit a report, and their responsibilities and their compliance costs will only escalate. That the cooperatives are more like the social enterprises. They don't enjoy any concessions. I think something ought to be done about it. First, we have to get the title right under the ordinance. There has to be a dramatic change. This has to be lifted out of that remit. This is not poverty alleviation. They're part and parcel of our economy. If you put them under the AFCD to be supervised by the director of egg and fish, and this is wholly unreasonable. So we have to get this right and lift it out. And under the cooperatives ordinance, they have to be registered properly. Second, since they're part of the community economy, they play an important role. We have to give them the opportunity. They should be given some preference or some benefit in terms of tendering. Right, the next speaker is Tin Shui Wai Organic Group, Madam Pang Lok Yen. I am from the Tin Shui Wai Organic Group, and I hope that community economy can be a means of poverty alleviation to address the community problem. We are working organizing activities in Tin Shui Wai. There are so many poor people. There are housing problems. There are community problems in Tin Shui Wai. Job opportunities are not proportionate to the number of people. Now, a lot of the shopping malls are monopolized in the hands of the link REIT. The grassroots people don't have much of a choice. And people in Tin Shui Wai find it very difficult to make their living. We have been developing the community economy in Tin Shui Wai. We have tried to help people procure their daily necessities directly without being exploited. We are also developing community agriculture. The grassroots can take on agriculture as a form of living. We are organizing the fairs in Tin Shui Wai so that the residents there can make the purchase in these fairs for the benefit of other residents. The store owners can make a living, and people will be given alternative choices which are cheaper, and this is mutually beneficial. In the course of development, there are so many structural problems that are outstanding. As an organization, we apply for sites for the fairs to be run, but the government doesn't have a single department which is in charge of the fair policy. And there is no department in charge of the community economy. So the community organizations don't have any room to develop this idea. So I hope that the government can formulate the right policy on market fairs so that we will have a contact and department to get in touch with. The charitable organizations or NGOs can be allowed room to develop market fairs to address the social, the community problems. Right, next, concerning grassroots living alliances, Ms. Janice Fan. We have two proposals. The first one is to develop agriculture in the economy, and second is to develop market fairs. Community agriculture can produce products for the community, and this would also create job opportunities for the residents. And we can also instill a sense of belonging in the community. Community agriculture is sustainable and allows the residents an opportunity to engage in certain activities. So it does play a significant role. We see that in Hong Kong, the self-sufficiency is 1.9% in terms of foodstuff. We rely almost wholly on importation, which is pretty dangerous. Second, the AFC, there are 170 people waiting for sites for agriculture, but a lot of agricultural sites have been lying fallow, so there should be more opportunities given to people. Second, Hong Kong is reliant on finance and predominantly, and there are a lot of lands for hotels, retail, and others. But I don't think there is any measures to develop community economy. There should be sites made available for small-time businesses, so that the organizations can set up their own market fairs, and people can be involved in the community, and they can help the residents. The market fairs can also offer more choices for the residents. A lot of the shopping malls are monopolized in the hands of the conglomerates. These market fairs offer a wider range of choice. Fairs selling agricultural produce will also create a social cohesion. Now, because of the monopoly, we don't know who grows these produce, but in these market fairs, we know the whole chain of production. We know who the growers are, and there is very much a connection between the sellers and the buyers. So it is our view that the government should allow more room for community agriculture to exist, and also market fairs to exist. Thank you.
Concerning CSSA and low-income alliances, Mr. Lee. Our alliance formed a concerned group with market representatives from Shenzhen markets. In recent years, prices have increased a lot, and the income of the residents cannot catch up. And one of the reasons is that we have less choices now. With the monopoly of developers, a lot of small operators were driven out of the market, and without much choice, we have to turn to shopping centers, which are much more expensive. And with limited income, a lot of the residents have to think about how to save money. And in these night markets in Shenzhen, a lot of people would sell second-hand goods, and this is and the residents have to think about how to solve a lot of living problems. And these markets also help alleviate the effects of inflation, and this also promotes conservation. because a lot of things can be reused. And a lot of grassroots residents find opportunities in these night markets. CY had once said he would try to alleviate poverty in these districts. And however, in the policy address this year, we have not heard anything from CY on promoting community economy. He only mentioned policies on the more upscale districts. So we would just like to remind the CE that they have to respond to the calls of the grassroots communities. And we hope the government can promote these night markets and allow these markets to help the residents improve their livelihoods. I hope the administration can also draw policies for night markets. Right now, a lot of night market operators struggle to make a living out of their businesses because of a lack of the right channels. If we don't have a concrete policy on night markets, then this problem cannot be solved. I hope the administration would not continue to drive away these operators. Night Market Concern Group. We are concerned with grassroots families and low-income families. A lot of residents have told us that with the domination of developers, whenever they shop for necessities such as food and clothes, they would often have to pay a lot. And these markets provide a great platform for them to buy these necessities at a lower price. In recent years, we have cooperated with various night market owners from Shui to organize whole day fairs. And such fairs have proved very popular among local residents. And through these fairs, they can purchase what they need in life at a relatively low price. However, a lot of owners told us that they face a lot of restrictions from the government. For example, licensing issues and therefore we hope the administration can come up with a concrete policy for night markets to provide a platform for these operators and also consumers to find what they need. These markets are a very important part of the community and also helps alleviate poverty, and therefore we hope the government can hear our voice. And that's all. Thank you. DABHK, Ms. Chung. Regarding social enterprises, they are run on business principles with an aim of achieving social objectives. For example, promoting employment and allowing low-income individuals to be self-reliant. We completely agree with this principle. And we recommend the government to designate a department to handle SE policies and also review the current infrastructure. The government should coordinate on matters related to SEs For example, help them help finance SEs, providing short-term grants, etc., to help them become self-sufficient. The government can also enhance the networks for SEs to facilitate funds matching, and they can also facilitate low-interest loans, etc. And they can also subsidize SEs to employ the disadvantaged, for example, people with disabilities. If individuals or companies are willing to donate money to SEs, we can consider offering tax concessions. With the high rents in Hong Kong, we can also provide cheap venues for these SEs to aid their development. We can also set up a training center to help SEs train their employees and provide one-stop consultancy services. This also helps promote the SEs. A lot of enterprises have done relatively well. For example, there is a restaurant in Wan Chai which only employs people with deafness. However, promotion is somewhat lacking. If the government can provide more information to all of us, to the residents, I'm sure a lot of people won't mind paying a little bit more to support these SEs. And the government can also enhance cooperation and communication between SEs. Li Ka-shen, she's absent. Tin Shui Wai Bazaar Concern Group. A lot of Tin Shui Wai residents have gathered in the morning, and after 10 years or so, we have formed the Tin Kwong market. And from a few years ago, we have sought to legalize this Tin Kwong market. And we introduced a management system to keep order in this market. We have submitted a proposal to the district office. However, at the end, the government didn't accept our proposal, and they relocated these hawkers to another market in the top-down approach. At the end, these owners had to pay higher rents, and they were driven out of the market. What I want to say is a lot of economic activities are already going on in the local communities, and they are already doing business. I believe that government intervention the government should seek to reduce restrictions in order to help these business operators, and they should not take a top-down approach, a governance approach, to manage these community business. And what they're doing now would only kill these local businesses. In Tin Shui Wai, we have a lot of economic activities. For example, purchase, ordering, exchanges initiated by Tin Shui Wai residents. And some of them would prepare delicious snacks. A chef told me that he once worked in a restaurant. However, now he can only take part-time jobs, and he makes delicious chili sauce. However, he doesn't have a permanent place to prepare his food, and he can only cook it at home, and therefore he cannot launch his product outside. And another resident is good at making curry fish balls. However, because of restrictions of the venue, she cannot obtain a a restaurant license. So at the end, she was forced to do something else, and now she is selling underwear. And another resident used to make very delicious biscuits, but now he was forced to do something else either. So we see all these problems faced by Tin Shui Wai residents. We really hope that the government can see community business requires support in terms of licenses and land. So I hope the government can set up an interdepartmental task force to tackle these problems. Community Development Enhanced Fund, Ms. Kwan. I represent the Community Development Enhanced Fund. I come from the western side of Hong Kong Island. Since a few years ago, our center was run by Ming Oi, by the Caritas Center. Because of poor economic conditions, a lot of grassroots families are affected, and through this platform, we provide a platform for people to buy second-hand goods and crafts. We have accumulated some experience in communicating with different people, and these street markets allow residents to buy things at a cheaper price, and this is a win-win situation. We are from grassroots families, and with the support of district organizations, and we are able to hold a fair at a fixed location regularly. And 2 years on, because of a lack of policy support from the government, our organizations have not been able to secure a venue for these street markets. And our developments have stalled. Later on, after negotiations with other Street Markets Alliance and the government, we were able to secure this venue. And we have been running the street market for half a year. And we have to start from scratch to communicate and build trust with the residents, the local residents. We hope the government can have a concrete policy for street markets so that they can continue to develop. So I hope our developments won't be stalled. We sell second-hand and cheaper goods, the exchange of goods at these street markets. We hope to bring convenience to the local residents and allow them to buy cheaper goods. We believe most people won't be able to buy things at big shopping centers, and I'm sure a lot of the residents cannot afford to buy things at shopping centers. We hope the street markets can benefit the lives of people with who are less off. And our initiatives also promotes conservation and the reduction of waste. We hope the government can have a concrete policy to help the street markets develop. Tung Chung Bazaar Concern Group.
I'm really delighted to have the opportunity to meet honourable members. A lot of our fellow workers cannot take part in this kind of meeting because they cannot take any time off, or they can't even mention this to their bosses. So what can they get out of it? I'd like to share with you an anecdote. That this person would like to come here, but they cannot take any time off. I've been working in the grassroots. I work exceedingly long hours. Every single day I put in 13, 14 hours. I can't even look after my family, and I miss a lot of the the growing up of my kids. When many people working in the airport are suffering from exhaustion, now we are organizing some activities whereby we cook some food to share among ourselves. We sell them to other people. Now, we are living in public rental housing in Dongchong. We have one shopping mall which is run by the Link REIT. Everything is so expensive there. We hope that the government will allow us some space so that we can give full play to our potential, and we can sell certain stuff for a small profit. This will help our economy, the community economy, and improve the relationship in our family. And this will foster better community cohesion because we can get to know a lot more people. I have to work today, so I cannot come here. I have made some cakes for honourable members, and I'd like to wish you a happy New Year and every success in the Year of the Horse. All right, there you are. You heard from that resident. She has prepared some cake for members. Now, she get paid for what she does, but dignity is very important. Can she find an opportunity to give full play to her potential? I think everyone should be given an opportunity to contribute to society. Other than living allowance, if we allow them to engage in certain activities in the community, then they would be helped, and we have to have some policies for poverty alleviation. All right, Tin Shui Wai Hawker Concern Group. I am living in Tin Shui Wai. I am also a hawker myself. I would like to air my sentiments here as a hawker. I mentioned the Hong Shui Kiu development last time. I don't think we should replicate the Tin Shui Wai example in Hong Shui Kiu, because the whole design has engendered a whole host of problems. The government should rectify all the problems arising from the design. We're doing some market fairs in Tin Shui Wai to promote more economic activities so that people can realize that their potential in cooking, and they can find jobs for themselves. There would be more job opportunities arising out of that. In the market fairs, now we have Tin Kwong Hui. I hope that the government can open up that fair to allow us in. There should be more open space and more streets to be opened up for this purpose. There is a lot of public space in the housing estates that is sitting empty there. In the 50s, 60s, 70s, or even 80s, there were so many hawkers. And the whole community can be so much more vibrant with the presence of hawkers. The residents can make a living, can support their family members. I hope that the administration would show more concern for the hawkers. The Tin Sao Hui and Tin Shui Wai, the mode of operation is not something suitable for every single hawker. A lot of them are struggling and they're having a hard time, and I hope that the administration would show more concern for the traders there. The government should be open-minded and be receptive to a more liberal hawker policy so that we can stay afloat, and more streets should be opened up for the residents to engage in local economy. When Chief Executive C.Y. Leung visited the district, he mentioned that in Tin Shui Wai there should be more economic activities that should be promoted. We should break down the monopoly. The conglomerate should not be allowed to monopolize everything and push up the prices. We should not be deprived of the opportunity to make a living. All right, Madam Lee, promoting economic development in Tin Shui Wai. Following on from Madam Fong, I'd like to say that the market fairs do have a significant role to play. They do carry with them a human touch. People really do love Tin Kwang Hui. That has been cleared away. There should be somewhere people can relieve their stress of life. They can have a bit of a chit-chat in the morning in these fairs. Tin Kwang Hui has been razed to the ground, and hawkers don't have anywhere to engage in their activities, and people don't have a gathering place. In Tin Shui Wai, we don't have any street shops. People are forced into the shopping malls because they cannot hang around any shops on the street level. We hope that we can revitalize the public space in Tin Shui Wai and allow the hawkers to trade their wares there. Obviously, we hope that there would be street level shops that can inject more vitality in Tin Shui Wai. Now it is very much quite deserted, and there should be a gathering place for people to communicate with one another. Right now, we have Chong Kong and Link Reed dominating the retail sector. A lot of the grassroots people are forced to lead a middle-class kind of lifestyle. They may not be able to afford it. I don't think the grassroots people should be deprived of the choice that they should be entitled to. Market fairs can promote local economy. There are some who cannot afford the shopping mall products. They would be more willing to buy from the hawkers, and that would inject more dynamism in the local economy. The whole design of Tin Shui Wai was wrong to start with. So these market fairs would have a role to play. So I hope the government formulate some policies in this regard. All right, Tong Chong Community Development Alliance, Madam Chiu. Before I talk about poverty alleviation, I'd like to tell you why the residents in Tong Chong are so poor. I think it is because of the government policy. We have very limited shopping malls in Tong Chong. We have tourism there. A lot of people are forced to work in the airport. There is a mismatch in terms of employment. There are 5,000 job openings at the airport. 70% of the residents have to travel across the districts for work, to Kowloon, to the NT, and so on. The amount of time they spend on traveling, on the traffic, would be enormous. They're financially poor, and they don't enjoy good enough family life. A lot of the residents find that since they've moved into Tong Chong, they are suffering from mental stress, and family discord is the order of the day. And Tong Chong is very much like an island. There is no neighborliness in Tong Chong. We are proposing a market fair proposal. In developing this idea, we got to know a lot of the ex-mental patients, a lot of housewives, they used to be cooped up at home. Now they can sell the wares on the street, and they have collected a lot of social capital. But the government is taking away the livelihood from these people. The government is offering impediments to these kind of business, and they are finding it very difficult to survive. They don't have anything to live for in Dongchong. There is no upward mobility. They will be stuck at the very low level, the low rung of the community. They simply cannot change their life. I mean, if they want to rent a shop, it will cost them $20,000 per month if they want to engage in business. If they sell as a hawker, they will be chased away by the FEHD. Now, the market fares would be difficult to get off the ground because of a lack of policy. At Kowloon Park, we tried to make the application. We made the application 3 months in advance. We were told about the decision 2 days before the event was due to take place. Is the government really dedicated to poverty alleviation? We have a lot of kaifong, so they may not be here today, but they would like to get across the message that the market fares are terribly important to them. I hope that the government would have policies formulated for this purpose. All right, Catholic Diocese of Hong Kong Diocesan Pastoral Center for Workers NT, Mr. Yu. Chairman, looking at the list, we have the Assistant Director of HAD, the Chief Executive Officer of HAD, and Chief Social Work Officer. This is the Poverty Subcommittee. I wonder why we have this Rehabilitation and Medical Social Services Officer here. We come here to air our views. We don't expect any response from the government because of a lack of policy. They don't have any dedication to poverty alleviation. We know who has the decision-making power. I got some New Year's scroll. Every success in the coming year, roaring business, and all these are for the new year. But a lot of the traders are really very, very sad because they find it very difficult to make a living. Now, we mentioned Tin Sao Hui, and some sneak into Tin Quang Hui to sell the wares. And there are some who get chased away because their rents are in arrears. Obviously, we are talking about revitalizing the local economy. We have seen a lot of workers who have to change their jobs, but they can't, and they engage in hawking, and they get arrested. Now, some may be traveling from Dongchong to Causeway Bay for work, and it is prohibitively expensive for them to travel. Wages are low, and the commodity prices are soaring. And we are only given the shopping malls, which are beyond the affordability of the general public. I don't think how you can alleviate poverty. I went to a market fair. This cost me $20. This is $15. All these are the daily the foodstuff. Can you buy these so cheap at the Ling Reed shopping malls? We're doing this somewhere so we can buy things on the cheap. Now, many people may be buying with a credit card, and they buy with the delivery free.
Not District Employment Concern Group, Ms. Kwok. I represent a group of grassroots workers in Shui. It's very hard to find employment for a lot of people. A lot of people would work in different districts, and some of them became parallel traders because there's nothing else they can do. A lot of traders were marginalized, and they were dominated by pharmacies, banks, etc. Most workers don't have a lot of education credentials, and they could only make a living by trading different goods and products, and they were often chased around, and some of them would sell goods to foreign domestic helpers, and a lot of times their goods were even confiscated. We want to be self-reliant, but it has become very difficult for them to make a livelihood. So sometimes we have to go even further. Some people go to Changchao. However, they were still being chased around. If we were caught, we face penalties or confiscations. Excuse me. I think for these workers who cannot find better employment, we really we really hope to free ourselves of this unfair situation. We don't want to shop at premises managed by the link. You are destroying the whole food chain, and we cannot even feed on very little things, and we are often chased around. So we hope the government can issue hawker licenses again. A lot of us used to be workers, and we want to be self-reliant. We can buy goods from China and resell them in Hong Kong, and with the little money we make, we can be self-sufficient, and we don't have to rely on CSSA, etc. Thank you. Smart and Beauty House, Mr. Chow. In the policy address this year, the government talked about economic and finance matters, and the focus is on financial development, but they didn't mention anything about helping grassroots with inflation and the rising living costs, and we face a lot of pressure, and there are a lot of complaints within residents. And the same product might cost very differently in a small store and a shopping center. I believe prices in China should have been cheaper. However, this is not the case. There is a lot of unemployment in areas like the northern Tunmun. Does the government have answers? The prices in the NT are becoming more expensive, and the residents of the new territories face a great challenge. The government should improve community economy and reduce unemployment, and this would help achieve social harmony. The government should also put in more resources to improve the economy. hawkers in traders in Shamshapo have a lot of space to do their business, but in areas like Tin Shui Wai, people face a lot of difficulties. The idea of Tin Shui Hui proposed by the government is not really helpful to the residents of Tin Shui Wai, and this is something they should think about. And they shouldn't just allow these traders to be driven out of business. They should introduce more street markets, room for hawkers throughout the new territories, and they should provide more convenient locations and venues, and they should provide cheap rents. Now with the high rents, a lot of people cannot afford to have their own businesses, and a lot of small shops have been closing down in recent years because they were overwhelmed by the big developers. And this has led to a lot of difficulties for a lot of residents. For the middle-aged who cannot find employment, they should introduce places for them to do their own business so that they can become self-reliant. Yiqing Organization Community Service, Mr. Chang. Today, the government sends three representatives, 2 from HAD and 1 from SWD, and so they are completely irrelevant. The government is sending irrelevant people to this meeting, so this is disgraceful. They have social workers, director, assistant director, director of social services, of social work. Why is the government sending these people to this meeting? They are not. Their work is irrelevant. They are sitting here and yet they are not listening to us. Now we have today we have 33 deputations. We have done a lot of research and we even took leave, and yet the government is not listening. Please, can you get back to your boss when you go back today? Please respect the opinion of the residents. And the chairperson is Carrie Lam, and yet she's not here today, and that shows that how disrespectful the government is. We were talking about housing matters, and yet the secretary for transport and housing is not here. We talked about hawkers, and the director of FEH is not here, so they're all absent today. The most basic thing is for the government officials to change their mentality, and all they did was to give sweetness, the so-called sweetness, and they were not getting to the roots of the problems. I just want to tell the government that it is our basic rights to enjoy basic living standards according to the United Nations Treaty. It's our basic rights to receive social security, and this is irrespective of race, time, or other factors. Please go back and tell the secretaries that this is our basic rights. They are sitting on huge salaries every day in a comfortable room, and they are ignoring the plights of a lot of people. The government is outsourcing everything and give the projects to the lowest bidders. Please learn from the UK. In the UK, the civil servants form a voluntary alliance to help the social enterprises and provides various training And it's not just outsourcing. It's not as simple as that. Thank you. The United Hawkers Development Platform, Mr. Ho. Today we are the topic is promoting community economy to alleviate poverty. However, in the eyes of the administration, this is not part of this is not on the agenda. The grants given to these hawkers, apparently they are helping them, but actually they have killed 200 hawker stalls. So can this still be considered a policy to help these hawkers? By not issuing new licenses, they are virtually killing these hawkers and hawker markets. We only have 40 or so hawker markets left in Hong Kong, and within in less than 10 years, all of them will be gone. A lot of hawkers are only assistants because a lot of owners are very old already, so they have to hire someone to help run their stores. A lot of these assistants have been operating for 20 or 30 years. However, with this new hawker policy, with this new license policy, they were all virtually gone, and they don't even get a money. They don't even get money for when they were dismissed because they were not proper employees. These are the people who try to be self-sufficient. Has the government given them a chance to control their own destiny, to allow them to be self-sufficient? However, and also the FEHD and the operations and their operations are very bureaucratic, and people were trading licenses, and this is a situation which has driven hawkers out of business. This is very bureaucratic, very untransparent, and this cannot help the development of hawkers. And the Development Bureau should send someone here today. They should be here today because the government's development policies have never considered the livelihood of hawkers, and the government has allowed big conglomerates to dominate, like the Link. And the streets networks, the hawker networks, have become very scattered. And our aim is to give these assistants a proper title and stop the bureaucratic management of the government in terms of food and hygiene matters. We should learn from other countries. Justice and Peace Commission of the Hong Kong Catholic Diocese. The CE said they would develop Hong Shui Kiu, and they would build roads above that district. However, not many people know about what's happening underneath. A lot of Tin Shui Wai residents would become farmers because of their networks. There's a lot of domination in Tin Shui Wai, and Hong Shui Kiu plays the role of a bridge. A lot of people sell things in Tin Kwang He, can sell their leftovers food there, and this facilitates the organic development of the entire Tin Shui Wai district. But the government does not understand the situation. We should consider this issue from a non-formal economic development point of view. In Hong Kong, we often try to formalize everything. However, for hawker activities, we should consider taking a non-formal approach. A lot of these people are just want to make a living, and they're not looking to make big money. In Tin Shui Wai, we can see the failures of the government's formal planning. They are asking hawkers to operate for 8 hours a day. Right now, a lot of people are hawkers. They choose to become hawkers because they can have flexible working hours, as they need to look after their families, and the startup costs are not as high. However, the government policies mean that they would have lost their edge. The hawkers would have lost their edge. There is a big demand for hawkers. If we look at Tin Shao Hui, a lot of people are applying for a license. We can see a lot of people want to become hawkers. The demand is extremely high, and this reflects the market's demand for these hawkers. We are talking about land issues and allocation issues. Do we not have enough land? The answer is no. We see a lot of new public residential estates, and we only see one shopping center in Kowloon City operating, launched by the government. For a lot of shopping centers are extremely overcrowded. A lot of shopping centers in the new territories, and the reason is a lot of housing estates built by the government do not have shopping centers attached. I'm sure we still have a lot of land, and I hope DHAD can vacate some of these shopping centers to become street markets.
Van Rock Institute, Mr. Andrew Shun is not here. Alliance of Social Economy, Ms. Dora Ching. In 2010, the UN made that year a year for the cooperatives. So we have published the white paper. We are urging for measures to resolve the deep-seated problems. There should be a promotion of cooperatives, fair trading. We should encourage community agriculture, and also the promotion of this idea. We should promote cooperatives as a means to resolve the disparity between the rich and the poor. People can take part in economic activities with dignity. They can make a living. There will be a justice, social justice arising out of that. We should. The economy should be for the people. If the economy is not for the people, that's not a real economy. We've got 3 points to make here. The public should be taking part in the economy. The grassroots should be able to take part in the formulation of policy. We should have the tripartite cooperation. The public should come first, followed by the government. We emphasize that there are 5 proposals. First, the institutions should be reformed. There has to be a bureau promoting economic development. Second, the finance should be reformed. 1% of the public finance should be devoted to the creation of a reserve fund, and 0.5% should be set aside for the recurrent revenue for the fund. We should promote grassroots and community involvement and support the development of cooperatives, and social enterprises should be formalized. Third, we should amend the cooperatives ordinance. We should not restrict the number of registered persons there. There should be space or sites made available inexpensively for the development of cooperatives. Cooperatives can, like charitable organizations, rent the public housing estates space for a token $1, and agricultural sites should be procured so that the sites will not be damaged. In the anti-northeast, northwest, the agricultural land should be properly protected against the developers' encroachment. There should be fair competition ordinance. We have to guard against any monopoly. The government can award tender contracts to the social enterprises and cooperatives so that they can enjoy more opportunities. Thank you. All right, next, Madam Wong, Community-Oriented Mutual Economy. Now, whether we can improve people's lot, whether we can improve people's life is very important. In Wan Chai, we have set up a local economy. We have absorbed a lot of talents, and their talents were not really taken on board by the mainstream community. We created a platform so that these people can put in their hours to earn the coupons, whereby they can get services like hairdressing, the purchase of organic vegetables, and so on. This mode of operation has improved people's life, and this is free from any exploitation. This is fair. This is this comes with dignity and choices. There is very much a human touch involved. People could improve their life. In 2004, we got earmarked a ground floor shop space to create a center for people to gather around and to exchange their commodities. We got the support of the community centers, and people from different strata and different shops were involved. We had some of the second-hand materials that could be reused. In different districts, the government does have a lot of GIC sites which are lying vacant all these years. Why don't we allocate some of these resources to the community so that people would take full advantage of them? If we can utilize these resources in the community for people to realize their potential, they will be happy, and they will be able to contribute to the economic effects. And this is the greatest, one of the greatest social capitals in Hong Kong. I'm sure that the Commission on Poverty or the government should have better thinking. The government should not alleviate poverty by the conventional means. All right, Eco-Feminine Cooperative Network. It was set up in 2007. The idea was to promote the reduction of waste and reduce the volume of waste destined for the landfills. Now, if the materials cannot be recycled, we will segregate them for the private recyclers to recycle them. A lot of the scavengers are collecting all these rubbish. So we have 3,000 cleaners hired by the FEHD. Now we have 75,000 cleaners in the private sector, and they can collect 78,000 tons. Other than the senior citizens, a lot of housewives are also scavenging, and they collected all these old items for repair to make a bit of profits. And some of these products fetch prices that vary from day to day. A lot of these products are destined for export. Now we rely on export for the recycling industry. We collect the plastic waste. A lot of it goes to the landfill.
喺社區啦。
In the community, a lot of housewives are scavengers themselves, and they do so in order to relieve the financial burden. I hope that the government can promote the reuse and recycling of waste materials. The government should not put a price tag on everything. It is important for us to reduce waste. We should promote sustainable development. Now, if the government can promote a recycling industry, a lot of job opportunities can be created, and people would have less of the financial burden. So we urge the administration to devote some resources in different communities to set up market fairs so that people can engage in the trading of second-hand items. This would support the development of this industry. There can be recycling centers. They can be set up to create job opportunities so that people can improve their lot. Thank you. I am Green Shop in Wan Chai. I'm Chow. This is a social enterprise. We are providing opportunities for upward mobility to improve their lot. So that they will be able to engage in the activities with dignity. This will not only offer them some reasonable financial returns, but also allow them to be integrated into the community as a respectable member of the community. They will not be divorced from the community, and they can engage with the community with dignity. There would be better cohesion and better connection with the community. This will improve the social capital. The workers in the green shop are housewives in the grassroots. A lot of them are new arrivals themselves. It is pretty difficult for them to be integrated into the community. The green shop allows them to take full advantage of their expertise, and these residents will be able to build up mutual respect in the green shop. In 2012-13, the workers put in 9,000 hours in the green shop, and they make a total income of $300,000. That we have made a pact with the organic farms. We have collected 13,000 tons of agricultural produce so far. We have been around for 7 years. We have earned the support of the community, although we have experienced tremendous difficulties in the form of escalating rents by as much as 50%. The raw materials are costing more these days, and we were not diversified enough. We're experiencing a lot of difficulties, struggling to stay afloat. Now it is important for us to diversify, and we can also improve the community.
Cooperatives Alliance, Ms. Chan. We want to propose an important proposal. A lot of people have mentioned self-reliance, and people have in the community have worked very hard. And we are proposing a new solution to revitalize community business. The government mentioned alleviating the working poor, and they mentioned the low-income working allowance and the poverty line, and we hope the government can be even more aggressive. A lot of organizations have come up with different solutions. The government should be more determined to make Hong Kong a city of cooperatives. In terms of economic considerations, we have to encourage cooperation in the labor market so that participants can come up with social projects to meet social needs. The government should consider cooperatives or cooperative enterprises a crucial part of the Hong Kong economy. So what are Hong Kong's advantages? First, there is value in cooperation. This is not easy. We have to consider social objectives. There has to be collaboration between cooperatives. And we should also consider justice and fairness. Since the 1970s, we have various civil groups have accumulated valuable experience. And second is the process of cooperation. Cooperatives rely on self-governance, self-management, and they also seek to reward the society, to pay back to the society. And such mentality is not easy, even in ordinary businesses. And a lot of residents and employees have high respect for their own jobs. And this is one of our advantages. And third, we also have to collaborate with the society, with the community. Within our community, we can see a lot of new relationships and connections. For example, food production, recycling, reduction of waste at source. We can see that the people of Hong Kong, in the process of promoting community economy, we have an edge to create a new sector or industry. I hope our friends, our government, we have come up with this book called A Different Social Economy for Hong Kong. This is a global trend and we should not fall behind. Thank you. Extraordinary Human Resources Market. We work with new immigrants and single mothers, as well as the middle-aged women. However, a lot of the times we receive little or no support from the government. And we provide escort services for elderly homes and community centers. We provide caring services. I hope the government can pay more attention in these issues. We face the issue of aging in Hong Kong. If the government wants to alleviate poverty, why don't they help these people, these middle-aged women, to find employment while taking care of their families? These women don't want to be on CSSA all the time. They want to step out. However, they need to take care of their kids. So our platform serves to give them choice so that these women can make a little bit of money and for their family. A lot of the times, the mothers want to teach their kids something. A lot of new immigrants are not very good at English. However, it's very difficult for them to hire a private teacher. These cooperatives would translate into a little bit of extra money for these mothers to help their children. I hope the government can tackle this issue and not just think about outsourcing all day long. They should help these women make fair money and allow them to be self-sufficient. Thank you. Hong Kong Women Workers Association. We're talking about community economy today. As a lot of people said, the government is not paying attention to this issue. I have read the papers prepared by LegCo, and you have only mentioned community economy. So I just want to reinforce the concepts of community economy. We should include cooperatives, street markets, etc. A lot of people ask why don't these cooperatives register themselves as an SE? This is an important concept, and cooperatives are not just a job. People want dignity, and they want to build a bond with the community. And we are talking mutual respect, and that's the reason people set up cooperatives. There might not be a lot of cooperatives right now. However, there are many cooperatives run on a community level which are not registered via a formal way. People speak highly of cooperatives. In the global economic turmoil, these cooperatives continue to provide a stable source of income to the workers and also promote social harmony. I'm sure the FEHD doesn't know there are so many cooperatives in Hong Kong. We have different kinds of cooperatives, savings cooperatives, etc. Workers cooperatives, labor cooperatives, and they have a social goal. However, they have to pay profit tax. And a lot of public institutions don't even know what is a cooperative. And if you visit the EFCD website, you won't find the word cooperative, and they are being ignored by the government. When we talk about poverty alleviation, we should value cooperatives. We should ascertain their status, give them tax concessions, and they have social objectives, and they should enjoy equal status as other institutions. And in terms of purchasing policies, there should be a clause to include cooperatives. And these are some of our suggestions for promoting social economy. The Greenwise Workers Cooperative Society. We were formed in 2008 under the AFCD. Our goal is to help grassroots women by allowing them to sell green products. This is not just to make money, but we want to introduce more choices for people. We have rented an industrial flats in Tuen Mun, and we run as a cooperative. However, after so many years, it's very hard for us to survive because of rents. Since a big shopping center and estate and housing estate were launched in Tuen Mun, our rent has the rent has gone up the roof, and at the end we weren't even able to negotiate with them, and they have driven us away. A lot of people don't know what a cooperative is, and this includes our secretary. Many people know what SEs are, but no one knows what cooperatives are. And under this situation, when we want to apply for banking services, telecom services, this makes life very difficult for us because no one knows who we are and what we are doing. So a lot of times we have to apply for these services on individual basis, and this has caused difficulties in our business. And in the annual AFCD fair, we cannot receive any concessions as cooperatives. We have to assume the role of SEs if we are to get any concessions. Therefore, we have a few suggestions to the government to help the cooperatives. Just now, someone has mentioned some suggestions. We have participated in some tender exercises. However, the government always grants the tender to the lowest bid, so we can never compete with the big companies and conglomerates, and it's very hard for us to survive. And someone mentioned vacant spaces in housing estates, and we cannot even use these vacant spaces in housing estates. So our recommendation is for the government to provide these spaces to us at a low price. If we have to move all the time, it's very hard for us economically. So I hope the government can tackle these problems. The St. James Settlement Community Development Volunteers Team. Poverty alleviation is a social problem. The mode of social development is the same everywhere from the government's point of view, regardless of their skill sets. As we redevelop our communities, the government only considers the economic viewpoints, and they have not really considered the people in the community. They are constantly introducing foreign investment, and they are beautifying. They are trying to beautify the community, and they are damaging the existing bonds that exist in the community, and this is against the Home is Hong Kong campaign. Poverty is not just an individual problem, and the government has always thought that poverty is an individual problem. In the past 10 years, we have joined hands with the community to develop new models of development. For example, we are trying to rebuild social capital, community capital in Wan Chai. And we also introduced a neighborhood program to improve the livelihood of the community. And we also introduced the green shop to make use of the craftsmanship of the local residents. We also have the Blue House, the Hong Kong Story House. We want to make use of the history of the community to help the residents. We want to enhance participation of the community to build greater bonds. Poverty is an economic as well as a community problem. Improving cultural capital, community capital is very important. We have to build better neighborhoods, and this is key to building better lives. A lot of people mention street markets. They face a lot of restrictions from the government. My question is that for the home and for the products expo in Victoria Park every year, why are they promoting them all the time? And it's quite ridiculous that the biggest booth is not even a Hong Kong brand. So I want to question this policy.
Fair Circle. We were set up in 2005. We have been concerned about the monopoly by the big conglomerates at the expense of the grassroots. The monopoly of the conglomerates is contributing to the wealth disparity over the past decades. Also, the developers and the big conglomerates are perpetuating the hegemony in many different communities. People don't have that much of a choice in terms of retail shopping. Now, these conglomerates do not offer a lot of job opportunities for the grassroots. They are very rigid in terms of working hours. A lot of the grassroots people cannot fit into this kind of pattern, and poverty in the community is getting worse and worse. We urge the administration to promote community economy so that more choices, more room will be available for the general public to improve their poverty. We urge the government to do two things in this regard. First of all, while promoting community economy, there should be relaxation of restrictions. The world over, there are increasing instances of regulation of large enterprises, but for small time businesses, the government would give them as much latitude as possible. In Hong Kong, we're just moving in the opposite direction. Now, for the large corporations that have a lot of professionals, they can utilize their expertise to maximize the wiggle room under the law. We understand that people are not supposed to engage in hawking in the street, but a lot of large corporations have sales representatives on the streets engaging in sales, and they are taking advantage of public resources for their corporate gains. For the general public, we don't have the professional expertise, we don't have the leverage, and we cannot benefit as much as the large corporations. So the government should review the existing policies while imposing regulations on the large corporations, but also relax the restrictions on the small-time business. The most important thing is for the government to create demand, and through engendering demand, we can promote the development of community economy. Leung Chi-yuen, Dr. Leung. I'm grateful to fellow members for the views. A lot of officials may not be happy listening to what we have to say. I'm a social worker myself. I'd like to say something about the relationship between community economy and poverty. Let me say something about history. Back in 1847, the colonial government issued the hawker licenses. One of the considerations was the family economic financial situation. In the 60s, a lot of social workers would be visiting poor people and recommended that they get a hawker license. Now, this is a kind of benefits or welfare for the grassroots. In 1972, the government set up the CSSA system and stopped issuing the hawker licenses. With the economy taking off, the wealth gap is getting increasingly worse. A lot of people living in the remote areas are experiencing difficulties. The government started creating some of the market fairs in recent years. Tin Shaohui is a recent example. I'm supportive of this initiative on the part of the government. A lot of speakers mentioned the problems with this fair. It is in the form of a social enterprise, and they may not get the support of the grassroots. It is run very much on a top-down basis. I understand that you'll be discussing the poverty issue and also the SIE fund, and this may not require a lot of capital. This may not involve the large corporations. And the small traders can be taking part enthusiastically. I feel that the poverty situation is pretty serious. There are only three ways to address this. First, to get CSSA. Second, to get jobs which pay very poorly. And third, to be hawkers. I don't propose to repeat the points made. Hawker economy is certainly something that is the way forward. What is the major problem right now? The hawker policy has not been under review for so many years. I think that the government should set up a consultative committee on hawkers and market fairs, mount a public consultation. All the policy bureaus and departments are related to this should be brought into the picture. Thank you. Professor Hui Po Kang, Chairman, thank you. To address poverty problem, we have to identify the causes. Hong Kong is an affluent society, one of the most affluent jurisdictions the world over. I mean, the problem lies with uneven distribution of resources in terms of housing, in terms of the working hours, in terms of the time spent by the grassroots people, and also uneven distribution in terms of university places. Now, the government has got the direction wrong. They are trying to create a bigger pie. If poverty worsens, even with an increase in 10% of the economy, then a lot of benefits will be going into the pockets of the vested interests. So that the poor people would be stuck stuck in poverty. So I think that we have to talk about the distribution of resources. It should be an overall, a global policy. The government departments, we should not just see the SWD or individual departments that they should be dealing with poverty. Now, what are the solutions? We have to take poverty together with the overall economic development in Hong Kong. We have to have regard to the fact that the government should not be skilled in favor of the larger conglomerates. We should not have this golf course in the Northeast NT, which is for the minority. In terms of electricity, public transport, there should be more protection in favor of the public. We should open up more cultural and intellectual resources. We should popularize university places. We should increase the number of students engaged in the sports and culture. We should open up the airwaves. There should be standard working hours and basic living protection and community health and care and so on. There are a whole host of problems. The economy is predominantly skewed towards certain sectors, and that is not the solution to the fundamental poverty problem in Hong Kong. We have to make sure that all enterprises will have the corporate responsibilities. To encourage self-reliance, we should stop the vested interest to dominate all the resources. I have a book about poverty alleviation, which is available in the bookshops in Hong Kong. Okay, let me summarize what we heard. Cooperatives should be taken out of the AFCD. We don't have any policies on hawker and market fairs. There should be promotion. There should also be policy formulated for social enterprises. We should also do something about the community economy. Now, as I said, the government doesn't have a single bureau or department which is in charge of this area. We have some officials from the HAB, and there may be certain points that are not directly related to them. Perhaps Mr. Hui might wish to take the floor. First of all, thank you very much to the deputations, NGOs, district councillors for coming here and expressing their views. As Chairman said in his summary, members spoke on a wide variety of different subjects. It would be difficult for one single bureau or department to cover them all. Now, in our day-to-day work, our remit may not allow us to address every single point that you advanced. But please rest assured, before we came here for this meeting, indeed we talked with the CSO, the CS's office, and also the colleagues responsible for the Commission on Poverty. And your views would definitely be taken into account, so you haven't been speaking in vain today. Also, the Chairman has summarized most of the points. I don't propose to take up too much of members' time repeating them. Now, on the points that you made, you talked about social enterprises, the economy, the market fairs, and so on. The HAD has relevance to some of these areas. Now, I'd like to say that there were some arguments that the government has not done much in the way of poverty alleviation. I beg to differ. How much can the government do? How much has the government done is open to interpretation. But from the policy address in terms of poverty, the elderly, and the disadvantaged, we have Chapter 3 and 40-odd paragraphs and 10 pages devoted to these issues. Some are related to poverty, some are related to the elderly, the poverty, and the disadvantaged, and so on. You might wish to have a look at that. Community economy, the HAD has always been involved. About a decade or so ago, the former Financial Secretary, back in 2006, did say or did mention the local economy. He said to the effect that the local economy has been around for some considerable time, and this is part and parcel of our economy. the local economy covers a broad spectrum of things. It has everything to do with day-to-day life. It covers culture, recreation, leisure, spending, or even personal daily life, like the consumption and so on. It has to do with the services provided by the small traders. The then Financial Secretary said to the effect that to promote a local economy, we can achieve certain results. To promote domestic consumption, to create job opportunities, and to promote local characteristics, and to enhance local vitality. The government has provided some support to make this happen. The government encourages private organizations, NGOs, local groups to plan and make investment in and run all these activities. As far as the HAD is concerned, in terms of local economy, we've done certain things. We have set up a website in the 18 districts, which introduces the attractions as well as the characteristics of the 18 districts. And through the district councils, a lot of activities are organized to promote and stimulate a local economy. And together with the local organizations, we are building up the community. The district offices all over Hong Kong, where necessary, will assist other fellow departments and local personnel to engage in consultation with the district councils on local economy development. If there are innovative ideas, the district officers will, like you said, there may be a certain vacant site that can be put to effective use. Some examples: each year we have the book fairs in Wan Chai. In 0910 in Chun Wan, they have the jewelry fair. It is a one-off arrangement, but as far as I understand, they are continuing with the activities. In the Eastern District, Victoria Park, they have the FARM or Farm Fest, or the FARM Farm, which is a young people activity, which is run by the YWCA. In Xiangwan, autumn and winter period, they have the shopping fair.
In terms of street markets, 70 or 80% of the bodies of the organizations mentioned this issue. In recent years, a lot of people have suggested allocating suitable space for street markets. The HAD is very open, and we have been working to achieve this. With suitable proposals, we can consult district councils and other government departments in order to realize these plans. A lot of you have mentioned in the beginning of last year, you have mentioned the Tin Kwang Hui in Tin Shui Wai. As you might know, it was run by a charity, and the government has provided support, for example, offering short-term rents or providing rent concessions. And if these businesses face difficulties in operation, the government has also done promotion to help these operators. Some of you mentioned Tung Chung, and in terms of the development of markets in Tung Chung, we have recently had detailed discussions in the Tung Chung District Council. Some government departments are more reserved on this issue. If you look at the minutes, the FEHD thinks Tung Chung has a lot of retail facilities and restaurants already, including wet markets and other shopping centers. So at the moment, setting up a night market or bazaar, they are more. It's not appropriate at this time to set up new facilities in Tongchong. However, if an appropriate venue comes up and if the organization sees business opportunities, they can submit their proposal again to the district council. As I said, if district organizations see opportunities, they can apply again. And some of us talked about hawkers and hawker licenses and obtaining licenses from FEHD, land issues, etc. We also consider these issues. The HAD has helped organizations applying for the ESR program. The Chief Secretary mentioned that one of the goals of promoting community economy is to promote employment. And I want to spend some time on this. Community economy can help district personnel, especially minorities. The CS allocated 150 million in 2006 and 2011, and through the ESR program, they can support SEs. For the ESR program, it was initiated by the former COP, and through SEs, this fund provides seed money for organizations and help promote employment of districts for disadvantaged people in the districts. This allows district personnel to be employed and become self-sufficient, and ultimately they can help bond into the local communities. And this is a social project by the government. Some of you mentioned social enterprises, and some SEs are currently taking part in ESR, and some of them had received grants, and now they are operating very well. They are going very well. For example, the vegetarian restaurant one of you mentioned in Wan Chai, who employs deaf people. Our next agenda will actually be on ESR, so we can leave the details until then. Any supplement from the SWD? Chairman, thank you, all the delegations and members. The SWD was invited to this meeting to introduce one of our programs, which is on social innovation. This is also on the next agenda. Do you have any response to the deputations? But your program is on the next agenda, so you can talk about that later. Mr. Lam will speak on the next item on the agenda. We have 4 members who want to say something. Because of limited time, we only have 3 minutes each. We actually paid duty tours in Japan and Taiwan. In Japan, they have a very strong local economy business, and this is called the policy on valorization of city centers. And they have an integrated approach to city centers. People submitted proposals and they submit the plans to the municipal governments, and there are a lot of different shops and businesses in these city centers, and they have 10,000 such streets in Japan, and which is very good. And in Taiwan, they have a place called Darjie District, which is a rural community. And there are a lot of cultural and education activities going on, and they have been really successful in revitalization, and community participation is very high. Right now, the funds provided by the government only benefits maybe a small number of organizations, but the examples I just mentioned actually vitalize the entire communities. And they were participated by both the government and the community, and these are two distinctly different concepts. So for the HAD, you can take reference from these examples. Kwokaki, Wuchiwai, Kowai Keung, and Chen Yuhan. Chairman, thank you, all the deputations. However, I'm not sure if the government is really listening. If you tell the HAD and SWD how you can promote community economy, it's very obvious that they have no idea what we are talking about. They are only talking about SEs. SEs are not the focus of our meeting. The points we want to bring across is for people to become self-reliant. A lot of women organizations or cooperatives today just want to make a living for themselves. They don't want to become SEs. They want affordable rents. The government is just trying to delay or shift the focus. In Tinshui, the residents have no choice. They can only shop at the link. They are being ripped off by developers. Chairman, I think we should have the CS here today, or the Secretary for Welfare and Labor. And this issue cannot be tackled by HAD or SWD alone. If we want to solve the problems in Tinshui, we need support from other government departments. Tinshui is a poor example. The operators were driven out, and at that time the CS was invited to the opening ceremony, but it was only a show. I hope the government, we can invite the right government officials to be here. We don't need answers because they cannot give us answers. We need a concrete policy to help these districts, businesses to survive. You mentioned the examples in Japan and Taiwan. These are great examples, but this is not something the government can do. They don't have a policy right now. They don't have a concrete policy. We're not talking about small changes. Even if you mention Tin Kwang Hui or Tin Shao Hui, it's useless. So I hope we can invite the CS or the Secretary for Labor and Welfare here next time, Mr. Wu Chi-wai. Kowai Keung.
Chairman, thank you. First, I'd like to say that the market fairs do have some implications on environmental hygiene. In North Point, my constituency, they're causing these problems. It doesn't mean to say that I don't support market fairs. Tin Kwang Hui and others, there should be market fairs which are properly regulated, or nighttime bazaars. They may not be directly related to poverty alleviation, but these people are very innovative, and given the soaring rents, they're not prepared to rent a shop, but they are prepared to rent a space in these bazaars or fairs so that they can realize their potential, or they can make a living utilizing their own talents. They may not be poor in the proper sense of the word. I think that all the bureaus and departments that are involved with the economy should take part in this area. That there can be some traders who like to engage in the food business, and they may be opening up so many different shops on the same street. But others, they may be interested in garment or jewelry or other trinkets and so on. It would be difficult for the traders themselves to decide the location. I think that the bureau responsible for the economy should do something about it instead of just the labor and welfare. Other than location, an effective management would count for a great deal. Now, let's say there are some fairs that we keep urging the government to issue the itinerant hawker licenses or the fixed pitch hawker licenses. Now, all these should be promoted and perpetuated. At the present moment, the government is suppressing these kind of activities. I think the government should do a better job here. The shopping malls do not offer that much of attractiveness. If we have the fairs selling the art and craft and so on, it would be very much an attractive location for the tourists. They may not be quite interested in the brand names, and they can buy all of these in Europe. To develop tourism, we ought to develop these areas. Will you leave some time for the administration? Well, I don't think they can address my points because they are not the relevant department. Ms. Chen Yunhan, 4 minutes Q&A. I think the officials are working terribly hard, but this falls outside the remit. I think I'm critical of you letting go of certain departments. Greg Shui should be here. This is a part of the economy. Now, some mentioned the soy sauce factory and so on. I think this is also part of the economy. We had the Dragon Fair in Wong Tai Sin. We had the on-hands experience. We submitted the report to the HAB. There were a dozen or so NGOs being involved. We've got a lot of experience behind us, but the government hasn't really put great store by these fairs, and they're just fobbing us off. In Samshuipo, you have this computer fair, Mr. Chairman. The government doesn't set any store by this fair at all. I don't think the administration can address my points. I think we need a cross-departmental entity. Doesn't matter whether it's headed up by Greg So or Carrie Lam. We have to have a single entity with the involvement of experts, not government officials. We have two academic doctors here today. I didn't listen through the whole proceeding this morning because of a clash with another meeting. Now we're talking about diversification of the economy. The government doesn't address all these problems. The current CE and the current CE talked about developing or growing the economy, but I feel terribly unhappy about it. I don't want to talk about Tin Shui, Tin Sao Hui or other fairs. The government has to be determined in the way of local economy. Now I heard the two academics, they mentioned the review of the hawker policy. I think we have to achieve some breakthrough here. We have to issue or re-issue the hawker licenses. If you cannot address or manage this hawker policy well enough, how can you develop the local economy? Over the past decades or so, we have seen development which we do need to have policies. And what's the name of that FEHD director, the fat one who is retired? I asked him whether he would be dealing with the cooperatives ordinance. And land is another problem. Now we cannot carve out a site on a deserted island because that won't be on. In near Wong Tai Sin, there are so many people walking past. Now we don't have the members from the business sector. Now I think that at the Dragon Fair we had the Longcheng Center in the vicinity. The food establishments were worried about the business being pinched. Now, by the end of the fair, the restaurant owners asked me why the fair didn't go on, because we're serving different customers. In the Yellowstone Park in Australia, they have a fair. I think we can have all these in existence side by side. Chairman, you are part of the Commission on Poverty. You ought to tell Carrie Lam that there ought to be a dedicated official responsible for this policy. Otherwise, you'll be wasting all the efforts devoted to Tin Sao Hui and others. Let me address the point made by Ms. Chen Yun Han to arrange this meeting. We thought about the officials. Now, when it comes to local economy, it is the HAD. Now, the officials said that some of what you said falls outside their remit. Now, it goes to show that this area cuts across different departments, the licensing department, the lands department. It's not simply a question of throwing money at the problem, like the ESR. Now, we will be debating or discussing what subjects to be covered going forward. If you feel that it is not enough today, we can certainly arrange for another meeting for more of the same. We can set up all the government officials that would be needed. Shui. Chairman, thank you. Well, in relation to this local economy or the market fairs policies, I think the key thing is that in terms of management and licensing, it is within the remit of the FEHD. If we want to develop the local economy, we have to do something about the hawker control teams. If you take away the hawker control team, there would be more room for development. Maybe we should just look at the management in terms of the crowd control. Right now, we don't have any policy to fall back on. The hawker control team, they have to justify their existence, and they are doing something that will be detrimental to the local economy. I think the first thing is how to disband the hawker control team to start with. Second, the lesson we learned from Tin Sao Hui is that when it comes to market fairs, it would be difficult for for us to have a top-down approach in terms of location. The Tin Kwang Hui was doing well, and there were complaints lodged about noise and so on, and then they set aside a site, and an NGO was made the manager, the operator. I know that the operator has devoted an awful lot of resources to this, but things are leaving a lot to be desired. Ms. Chen Yun Han made the point about the Dragon Fair. Now, it was a private initiative, and then it became a district council initiative. That the Playground Association devoted a disproportionate amount of resources to that. I think if it is important for us to take away the red tape as far as the private NGO initiatives are concerned. The government simply imposes regulation and control. The government is paranoid about the loss of control, like the women's street and also the fixed pitch stores in Sam Shui Po. Now, who is managing the situation? I know that everybody knows who is managing the sites. I think the first thing to do is to get rid of the hawker control team, and we have to cut the red tape in such a way that the NGOs can put forward their own ideas, their innovative ideas, and that way we will be able to achieve the happy balance. Mr. Hui, care to respond? I've got nothing to respond, Chairman. Lee Chok-yen and Leung Kwok Hong, please. Now, when it comes to the market fairs, is the government merely trying to appoint a unit, a managing unit for management, or would you be prepared to carve out a site for the traders to engage in their trade? Mr. Hui. Chairman, thank you very much. As I said earlier on, we keep our options open. If there is a proposal that is put forward, then the district officers concerned will be prepared to have a look at it. We agree that for these market fairs, we should leave it up to the local people. If the local organizations or the local people have identified the needs, and then we can put in concerted efforts to see how best we can develop the idea. Like Mr. Wu said, we need someone managing the place. Mr. Lee Chok-yen. Chairman, thank you. You mentioned that the district officers would be helping. Tin Kwang Hui, we had the district officer being involved. It didn't come to any fruition. The problem lies with the absence of any government policies. And the district people will be engaging in a long, drawn-out battle with the administration, but many times to no avail. The Tin Kwang Hui will ask the FEHD whether they would be prepared to manage the site. FEHD told us that they don't have the policy, they're managing the markets. And that fell by the wayside. The district officers couldn't do anything. The FHD couldn't do anything at all. We ended up with naught. And then we had the Tin Sao Hui. Now with Tin Sao Hui, Carrie Lam opened that fair, and then it is now falling by the wayside, and she's removed herself completely from it. And it didn't get off to a good start to start with. And there is a lack of facilities. I'm not blaming the Tonghua group because the government doesn't have any sincerity to get it off the ground. So Tin Sao Hui is really struggling to stay afloat. Will it be able to stay afloat? Many traders cannot. And many traders are suffering really a severe blow. And I think Carrie Lam is being irresponsible not to make Tin Shaohui a success. Now, if she cannot make a success of Tin Shaohui, how can she make a success of Hong Kong? There is an ambition on her part to become the chief executive. If she cannot make a success of Tin Shaohui, what else can she make a success of in Hong Kong? So I am terribly disappointed the government doesn't have any policies in this regard. I know that you're not going to respond to this because you don't have any policies.
The second issue we have been the second issue is cooperatives. We have had a lot of discussions down the years. Why don't we provide better support for these cooperatives? For example, in terms of tax, as you know, cooperatives are formed by a big group of people, sometimes even in the hundreds. When it comes to paying tax, the government is not supporting these small businesses. Why doesn't the government have a policy on cooperatives? You may say there is a cooperative under AFCD, but it's out of touch with the current situation. Why don't you provide tax-free status to such cooperatives? And all these policies are lacking. It's very difficult for them. There is no policy whatsoever. Even if we hold another meeting, it will be in vain unless the government comes up with a new policy. And it all comes down to whether the government has any new thinking or new policies. So, any response from Mr. Lam? Cooperatives are not part of our work at the HAD. We will wait until the documents are passed on by LegCo to the CE office, and we will perform further follow-up. When we look at the examples in Taiwan and Japan, we can take they take a local community approach, and that's why we invited the HAD. But now we understand that if we are to discuss this issue, one department inviting just one government department is not enough. Mr. Leung Kwok Hong. In our trips, we saw that they have been running cooperatives for a long time. Right now, who is in charge of cooperatives? Is it AFCD? Yes, AFCD. Is it? So, Mr. Ho Chun Yin of DABHK is involved. He's not here today, though. The roots of the problem is, I really agree with Lee Chuk Yan. The CS, Carrie Lam, is not being responsible. They promised solving housing problems, and CY also promised to tackle this problem, but 1 year on, they found that this problem cannot be solved. So we shouldn't have high expectations of her. What's meant by a street market? Well, we Chinese people like going to markets, and this is a natural process. When people like to gather at certain places, and it's a natural process. But now you are turning them into formal institutions. If you allow people to freely sell their goods at wherever they want, you will find out where are the best spots. My opinion is you shouldn't control these people. You should allow them to form markets naturally before introducing rules or policies. like the Communist Party, once they start controlling things, the results would be very, very bad. Right now, you are for ladies' market. You are saying you are stopping people from operating, and a lot of them are closing down. Chairperson, maybe you will know what I'm talking about, because this is your district. You have to perform a very thorough review. You need resources. Chen Yunhan said, we see the problem is how the key is you should let people cooperate. You should give them this chance to cooperate. Please give them a chance to respond. I'm very angry. You came up with this Tin Shao market, and now Carrie Lam is no longer on this project. I told her publicly, if you cannot solve the problem with subdivided flats, that's okay. But please, can you please visit Yuen Long and do something for real? Can someone invite Miss Carrie Lam to do this, because I cannot communicate with her anymore. Mr. Lam, can you invite Carrie Lam? Tell her Lam Kwok Hong wants to invite her to Yuen Long to visit the people there. Is that possible? I want to talk a little bit about the markets. Mr. Leung is very right. There is a need in the community, and there's a need to serve the people in the community. You talked about Tin Shao markets, Tin Shao Hui. As far as I know, we have problems to solve within the community. And if there are problems in these markets, there might be food and hygiene issues. Please be brief. Yes, I will be quick. Tin Quang Hui might have adverse effects on the residents, so we have divided opinion. Some people want cheap goods, but on the other hand, some others are calling for management, and there is a demand for employment as well. As far as I know, at that time, a lot of former Tin Quang Hui owners have applied for a space in Tin Shao Hui. At that time, the relevant district officers have worked very hard, and they are still working very hard. Sorry, we still have one more item on the agenda. Chen Yunhan, 1 more minute for you. Chairman, I think this is an issue with determination by the government. If they have put emphasis on the grassroots, if they are serious about this problem, the CY said he wants to tackle grassroots problems, and a lot of policies depend on whether the government is determined to do something. In Japan and Taiwan, there are policies in place for the community. So the key now is whether the government is determined. So please tell Carrie Lam, if you are just patching up here and there, it's useless. You must have a big plan in place. So I hope, Chairman, I hope these site visit reports to Japan and Taiwan can be sent to Carrie Lam. These two countries are very determined to help these people be employed. Basically, every time we discuss such issues, we would forward our proposals to the Commission on Poverty. I just hope I'm just concerned she would put these issues aside since she's so busy. there is no commission to tackle problems with street markets or community economy. Even if you pass it on to the COP, they must have a task force to tackle such problems. There's no such issue, no such policy, right? There is a subcommittee on social entrepreneurship. Well, you can say that this has something to do with that committee. However, what we are discussing today is something completely different, and we will have government officials talk about this issue. So let's move on as soon as possible to the next item. Can we extend the meeting to 1:30 p.m.? I have another meeting. Can other members stay till 1:30? Yes, I have a meeting from 12:30 to 2:30. Can we go until 1:15? Can we extend it by 15 minutes? 1:30? Can anyone stay till 1:30? I'm sure the government's the government reps have a lot to say. Deputations may leave. Let's invite the other government officials. Our next item on SEs and the Social Innovation Fund. Mr. He, you can begin. And then Mr. Lam. You may start. As I said, one of the government's initiatives on SEs is the ESR fund, ESR program. And it was initiated by COP. And the aim is to provide seed money to NGOs in the districts to form social enterprises to create employment opportunities for the disadvantaged. And hopefully, through the right working environment, we can help the disadvantaged to become employed and to become self-efficient in the long run, as well as born into the local economy, the local communities. And this is a social-based, community-based approach. In 2006 and 2011, the FS reserved, respectively, 150 million to the HAD to run this program. And the first phase is from 2006 to 2011, and the second phase is from 2011 to 2016. And these are the 5-year plans. And we hope to take this chance to provide employment opportunities for the disadvantaged to achieve social objectives. Through this program, the subsidized SEs operate on business principles, and through offering products or services, and through the profits, they can achieve certain social objectives. In the long run, I hope the SEs can be self-financing after the programs have finished. And I want to talk about the enhancing employment of people with disabilities projects. Right now, we have approved 153 projects, and we have allocated $170 million. And we have helped a range of enterprises, including catering, healthcare, massaging, art groups, cultural groups, home care services, etc. We have created about 2,500 2,500 jobs of various nature. The SEs have benefited a lot of disadvantaged people. A lot of them have to have families to take care. Home services provide the biggest sector with about more than 400 people. And in total, we have more than 2,500 jobs. And these jobs are scattered in different districts. In urban areas, we have 37 organizations and 57 in the new territories. And for the remaining 59, they are located on a cross-district basis or territory-wide basis. And 18 of them are under preparation, and some of them are preparing to launch. And as of January this year, there are 137 SEs formed. We were often asked, after receiving the funding, how many SEs can continue to operate. Of these 105 SEs which have completed the grants period, around 76% are still operating on their own after the grant period.
In terms of profit and loss, 3/4 of the social enterprises have reached or exceeded their original targets. For the 70-odd SEs, 30% of them have turned in profits. Chairman, so much for the ESR. If I may take advantage of the time to brief members on some of the promotional support within the HAD. Now, this covers a number of areas. We have practical support and promotional support. Together with HKCSS, we have a guide for social enterprises, which cover all the other social enterprises except the ESR. About 400 of social enterprises have been posted on the web for public browsing. There were some deputations earlier on that referred to a successful social enterprise which should be given more publicity. Indeed, we're doing a lot of publicity here. We also have training courses for social enterprises together with the tertiary institutions, the managers of the social enterprises or the coordinators. They can sign up for these courses for them to get to grips with all the skills involved in the management. We also have the mentorship scheme for the new social enterprises. The professionals will be roped in to talk about the management, marketing, and all the rest of it. We also have a district carnival for social enterprises. We have the first one in Sha Tin, the second one in Sam Shui Po coming up. We have this in Kowloon City. We like to bring the idea of social enterprises into the community. Carnivals will make people aware of these social enterprises, and this will also encourage wider patronage. We also have an award scheme which would be a means of promotion. If district people or certain enterprises have done something for the social enterprises, they would be given an award. The HAB also has a contest in relation to the social enterprises. MBA students will be coming up with certain proposals in relation to social enterprises, so that there would be new and innovative ideas being injected into the management of social enterprises. We also have the SIE fund. I understand that my colleague will be talking about this in a few moments. Perhaps I hand the floor over to the SWD. I am a chairman and director of one of the social enterprises in Hong Kong, by way of a declaration. Let me say something about the SIE fund. We have earmarked $50 million for this particular scheme. The idea is to help the social enterprises to set up the business and to provide opportunities for the disabled. And this will enable them to have a harmonious environment to work in. This scheme will achieve the purpose of placing the disabled in employment. In January 2012, we injected $100 million into the fund for more support to be rendered. The idea is to create job opportunities for the PWDs. We have also enhanced the scheme. We started off with a 2-year support period, and now we have extended it to 3 years. Now, the enhancing employment of people with disabilities through a small enterprise project requires half the employees to be PWDs, and this is subject to supervision by the SWD. This will create opportunities for the PWDs. The grant will not exceed $2 million to meet the set-up capital costs incurred in the initial period of business operation in the first 3 years. The business is expected to become self-sustaining thereafter. We have devoted certain resources to this program. We have set up the Marketing Consultancy Office, Rehabilitation, or MCOR. This office provides advisory services for the development of the services of the funded businesses. And we have activities like annual promotional sale gala and design competitions. We have networking with the commercial sector for their support and the use of their premises for promotional activities. There will be publication of quarterly newsletters. Each year we assist them in the participation in major events like the Hong Kong Brands and Products and Expo, and we monitor their progress against certain milestones. We make sure that there will be sustainability in their business. The MCO will monitor their progress. When necessary, there would be advice provided to them. As of end of December 2013, we have allocated about $65 million for the setting up of a total of 84 businesses of different nature. We have created about 890 job opportunities, including over 630 job opportunities for PWDs. That's about 70% of the staff are PWDs themselves. This program has an element of poverty alleviation. Now, for those PWDs involved in this project, if they are CSSA recipients, 70–80% of them could become employed people. 13% CSSA recipients have successfully left the CSSA net. 80% of the disabled employed come from recommendations from sheltered workshops, integrated centers, and also the disabled centers. I mentioned 80%. Now, 80% are referred from these PWD organizations, and they are involved in the job market. And the vacancies left behind by them can also be filled by other needy PWDs. In a way, this will shorten the waiting time for these facilities. And this is one of the advantages and success of this particular program. Perhaps I pause here, Chairman. I welcome questions from members. Mr. Lam, Efficiency Unit, please. Chairman, I would like to take advantage of the PowerPoint to brief members on this Social and Innovation and Entrepreneurship Development Fund, or SIE Fund. In September last year, this was formally set up at the Poverty Summit. The money comes from the lottery fund to the tune of $500 million. The idea is to establish and support processes, schemes, and experiments that attract, inspire, and nurture social entrepreneurship, to introduce innovations that create social impact and build social capital, to support poverty alleviation. The idea is to prevent and alleviate poverty. There are a couple of principles I'd like to highlight. The key thing is that we are focusing on social innovation, not so much the social enterprises per se. Now, previously, we talked about social enterprises, but we're not focusing on social enterprises themselves. We may cover individuals, we may cover certain organizations, as long as they are minded to help with poverty. The SIE fund would give them support. The scope of the fund is meant to be flexible for more effective delivery of results. We understand that in the community out there, there are a lot of different NGOs that are promoting poverty alleviation. So with this $500 million, we don't really want to squeeze out other private programs and other government projects. This SIE fund is a new arrangement. We'd like to learn from experience. In taking this forward, we'd like to have a certain risk assessment mechanism, and while collecting the information, we don't really want to stifle other innovative initiatives. We have to make sure that the taxpayers' money will be put to the best possible use. As far as we understand, there are a number of other support programs and funds that are in existence at the present moment, and they do achieve a certain effectiveness. When we launch this fund, we don't really want to have any duplication with these other initiatives. Finally, we'd like to encourage cross-sectoral cooperation so that we can develop a cluster so that the innovators or the social enterprises can develop. Now, we are under one of the committees of the COP. We spent a year discussing the fund. We have a couple of priority areas. like innovative programs, capacity building, and research. Basically, what we are seeking to do is to conduct more research in taking forward the social innovation. This innovative program means that we'd like to offer a support program for the social entrepreneurs to take forward certain alleviation programs. We realize that we do need to offer support services like all the support pre and post subsidies, for instance, consultation, mentorship, and networking, and so on. Capacity building, basically the idea is to heighten public awareness about social innovation, and also to create an enabling environment for this to happen. We have listed a number of initiatives that we think we'll be able to build capacity, like competition, award, mentorship, advisory service, networking, publicity, training, and educational programs, financial market for dedicated to social innovation, and also social enterprise development, business model, workflow, and expertise, and so on. Basically, we like to have an enabling environment so that the whole community can promote innovation in this area.
And the operating mode of our fund, we will make use of intermediaries. Basically, in our community, we have a lot of organizations who are experienced in social innovation, and they are very experienced in social innovation or entrepreneurship. We want to make use of these existing resources to help us in the work I just mentioned. The reason why we use intermediaries is that they are more flexible and they are willing to take risks. They are also experienced in such work, and they have the right networks, which is a very important factor. We hope to build a bigger and sustainable network of support across different sectors through these intermediaries. And on our work progress, last year in June or July, we have conducted a market survey to gather valuable information for the direction of social innovation. The survey was conducted on over 2,000 units, and we have received 50 comment forms, and we have held briefing sessions for stakeholders to introduce various information. Finally, we also launched an SIE fund website to allow the public to gain access to more information. In 2014, we will hire the first batch of intermediaries and study our flagship project called on food aid, and we will also hold large-scale competitions to promote social innovation. And that's all for my presentation. Thank you. Right now, there are 3 government funds to help people, to help startups. One is ESR for NGOs and non-profit organizations. The second is this enhancing employment projects for people with disabilities and the disadvantaged. And this one, the SIE fund, is for individuals as well as groups, and it covers profits and non-profits. They can all apply for this fund. And these are the three things the government is using to help startups. I want to explain to the departments that we have had a lot of special meetings these days, and various secretaries outlining the proposal mentioned in the policy address. So there might be repetitions. And we also have a meeting today on security, so I hope you can understand this issue. Lee Chak-yan, when I see the program, I want to hear more about the so-called flagship project. It doesn't seem very creative, because it has already been done. And what is meant by this flagship project? What is meant by study? Do you want to do this food aid projects through an innovative manner, or you will actually do it on a tender basis? And this is the first question. The second question, one of the work scopes under SIE fund is to subsidize innovative projects. What is the difference between this scheme and ESR? They also subsidize SEs, and the SIE fund also subsidize SEs. Do you mean that you're just emphasizing innovation or creativity? So if anyone has any creative ideas, they can apply for you. So somewhat this is similar to ESR. So what are the differences? Are you emphasizing the innovation aspects, and who are to judge whether these businesses or proposals are innovative or not? So what is meant by the first batch of intermediaries? Can you explain where these intermediaries are from? I know a lot of people are setting up SE platforms. Are these the intermediaries you're talking about? So can you clarify on these issues? Thank you. 7 minutes. You have 7 minutes. Mr. Lam. Thank you, Chairman. And the question. Basically, we have 3 questions. First, on the food aid. Basically, we are talking about a food bank. The task force would like to focus on overall food aid efforts. Our aim is to enhance efficiency of the food aid initiatives. We see that there are over 100 organizations providing hot meals or leftover food for people in need. In this regard, they cover a lot of different people. For example, supermarkets, restaurants, hotels, they all provide leftover food. And some organizations would also approach these institutions to collect these food and reprocess them for distribution to the people in need. So we actually review this overall flow, and we see whether there are any room for improvement. For example, some people might like to provide food, but because of different reasons, for example, risk, reputation, etc., we see room for improvement in the entire supply chain. So we hope to focus on these issues and not only on the food bank arrangements of the government. We look at the overall distribution flow or arrangements of leftover food, and this is something we hope to achieve. On the ESR program, as you saw from the slides, we mentioned that our focus is on social innovation. And we are not just talking about SEs. For ESR, as far as I know, applicants might be NGOs or non-profits, whereas for the SIE fund, we welcome individuals, all kinds of businesses or even NGOs. We agree that poverty alleviation should be integral, and it cannot be the burden of only one government department, and we need wider participation. In other countries, we have had similar experience. If people have great ideas or concepts which can help solve social problems like poverty, if we have people who have these great ideas, how can we help them to realize these ideas into concrete plans or businesses? And this is one of our objectives with the SIE fund. We hope our projects would not overlap with other initiatives. So you were very right. Our focus, our emphasis is on innovation. So anyone with such thinking are eligible, and we want to help these people. And we want to help these people come up with ideas to solve social problems. So businesses are businesses also eligible? Companies also eligible? Yes. I want to declare interest. I am involved in a waste food collection and distribution operation. Sometimes we collect leftovers and distribute them to elderly people. So I just want to clarify one thing. Are you just doing research? A lot of people are doing similar things already. Are you actually doing research but not execution? Are you leaving the execution part to other institutions? I think the EPD and the EB are also doing something similar. They were negotiating food recycling with us recently. I see some similarities here. You might have hotels or restaurants providing hot food or hot meals. For instance, we collect leftovers. So I just want to clarify whether you are actually just doing research and not execution. And on innovation, how much money do you have? Sometimes I only have an idea and I don't even have a proposal. Who can I turn to discuss my idea? Let's say I have one brilliant idea, but I don't know where to start and I don't know how much money I need. I only have very, very preliminary ideas. How do you run this whole program? Some people might say, oh, I will need 100,000 or 5 million or 2 million. In terms of funding, what is the flow, and have you already started? As far as I know, we don't have to pass. We have to go through the finance committee. Are you just do you really welcome anyone and any ideas? On the third point, on the adjudication of the scheme, within a month or two, we will invite institutions who are interested in becoming intermediaries, and they have to submit ideas and suggestions. The judging process will be overseen by our task force. I'm sure this process will be fair and transparent when we choose these intermediaries. Going back to the question of food bank, we are not just doing research. This is just one of the things we do. We actually have a rough idea. We work with HKCSS. In terms of food aid, we are finding out more about the market, and we study room for improvement. We will have stakeholder forums, and after such consultation, to learn more about the market, we will implement our plans. We will put our ideas into action, and we are actually thinking about setting up a new platform to involve all food aid stakeholders to let them know more about the current market operations and come up with suggestions for improvement. Under this project, we will work with, we will communicate with EPD and exchange information and opinion. So we will not see any overlaps in work. Your program is different from the one by EPD, right? Theirs is more about food recycling, and ours is about poverty alleviation.
And
And let me put this to Mr. Lam of SWT about the program for the PWD, $2 million. They will be self-sufficient. You also mentioned certain jobs and number of people involved. Are there any institutions that after 3 years of support could carry on and became self-sufficient financially? Do you have any figures? Second, for Mr. Lee, about this ESR. We talked about the social enterprises. I'm not sure whether you have read the report regarding social enterprises visited Taiwan and other Asian jurisdictions. The term before last, we made a visit to the UK, and if I remember correctly, Spain. The government intervention was pretty strong in terms of land and in terms of making available certain vacant sites. And the government has formulated the procurement policy in such a way that priority will be given to social enterprises. They can also enjoy tax concession or waiver. Will you consider along those lines, or will you be just throwing $2-3 million at them and then leave them to sink or float? This has been around for some time, 5 years at least, or 6 years. I think it is 6 years. So would there be any necessity for a review to get it more right? Mr. Lam, SWT. Thank you very much, Chairman, for the question. Let me cite some statistics. I mentioned that we are devoting funding to support 84 different initiatives. 8 of them have only just started. We don't have the concrete figures for them. For the 76 remaining projects. We do have the information from members. Of these 76, 53 of them are still in operation. 23 have already folded. Members must appreciate that this program started in 2001 for about a decade or so. For these 23 folded business, and let me cite some statistics, only 3 were in existence for less than 2 years. In other words, 21 of them, 21 enterprises have lasted for 3 or more years, and they were in operation during the contract period. I mentioned the 23 that have already folded. In other words, 53 are still in operation. Now for these 53, 30 have been around for 5 or more years. So for small-time businesses, they're doing pretty well. There was an expert that conducted some studies of late by comparison with other jurisdictions, and it was found that this program has achieved pretty good results. Have you made available the findings to the LegCo? In fact, the CS's office has a copy. Can this be made available to members? Yes, indeed. Of course, I have to consult the CS first. Before I call upon Mr. Hui, Mr. Lam, I've got some follow-up questions. We visited Korea and Taiwan. Their social enterprises for PWDs have certain financial subsidy subject to a cap. Let's say this social enterprise is a restaurant in Taiwan, 30%. Of course, they have a quantified figure. If they're running a business that they can get the support up to 30%. Now, I asked them why they're getting financial support while they are in business. I was told that even if they are not working, they still get subsidized anyway. So we are offering them the financial support on the same level as an ordinary income. So would you consider this? Now for these 23, they probably didn't have to fold the way they did. Chairman, and let me say something about the mode of operation. For NGOs, they would have to submit a proposal to start with, which will be vetted. You don't have to go into minute detail about it. The question I put was that you didn't have any subsidies for them, and then they folded. Now for these 23 that folded, I'm not sure how many PWDs there were. Let's say there were 2 each. Are we talking about 50 people? If they are subsidized, if they incur a deficit, these 23 could have survived, and the 50-odd PWDs could have been in jobs. Right, Chairman. We have a consultative committee for promoting employment among the PWDs. I can refer the ideas to that committee. Perhaps the secretary might wish to pass on the findings to the government. These 2 countries, these 2 jurisdictions, they are using this model. Yes, please, we'll refer the findings to the committee for consideration. Mr. Hui, basically we are aware of Spain, the UK, and the US examples in the development. They started off pretty early. I've also made reference to the documents referred to by the chairman at the summit on poverty. Similar examples were cited from overseas jurisdictions. Chairman, you mentioned some of the specific policy areas. Let me put it this way. In terms of land, we do assist social enterprises under ESR to get STT, short-term tenancies. If the government has sites lying vacant, then we can offer assistance on two levels. First, the site doesn't have to be put up for public tender. Then it would be considered under STT. We can offer certain sites for the social enterprises. And if policy support is justified, the site doesn't have to be put up for tender. Second, rental concession. I think the social enterprises have to be run along commercial lines, so we are not offering any rental concession of our own accord. But there are certain social enterprises that are offered rental concession by the developers or certain private organizations. Now we can split up the operational aspect and the asset aspect. Now with the asset, they can procure all the machinery and paraphernalia, and this will enable them to pay for all these items. Land, we don't have any subsidies, although we offer them support in terms of asset, which will be offsetting the overheads in the other areas. Now, in terms of procurement, in fact, in 2008, we had a pilot whereby the cleaning or cleansing contracts were offered to social enterprises for bidding, and that ended in 2012. The social enterprises bidders gave satisfactory service. That if there is a contract which can be handled by a social enterprise, if they need the tools, you don't have to go into detail, Mr. Hui. Procurement. In 2012, this ended, came to an end. Well, these cleansing contracts were not run by the HAB or HAD. The housing department was also involved. We would make the arrangement if this can be supported by the departments. But you play the coordinating role. Yes, indeed. Will you be asking around? I'm not with you. Will you be, or would HAB, HAD be asking around the departments to see whether there are such contracts available? It is the HAB that was coordinating. The pilot came to an end in 2012. I'll find out more about the details for members. As regards procurement, we encourage that we do have we do give priority to the social enterprises for the catering business of F&B and so on. Mr. Lee, if we have an idea, can we make an application? And how can they run the business, and who is the adjudicator? Now, you mentioned the SIE fund, and can you give us some more details, please? Chairman, now with regard to the SIE fund, we will identify the intermediaries. Now, we will take application under the scheme. If someone has certain innovative ideas that can be adopted to help poverty relief. Now, if they have just a concept, then, and if the intermediary project can, or the intermediary can be given certain support, like what sort of elements or ingredients that they would need to make a success of the project. These would come under the SIE fund. In terms of capacity building, that is of more of a global nature or holistic nature. We'd like to provide an enabling environment so that more organizations can be brought in. This is somewhat different from the innovation program. For capacity building, I would like more organizations to provide support services. If there is a concept, we have to find out what stage it is at. If someone has the funding and the concept but doesn't know how to run, it doesn't have the networking, then it may get some support from the intermediary. But if someone just has the concept but not so much the funding, then we would provide a through train kind of service where we incubate the idea and develop the idea and get on with the idea. So we have to have the first batch of intermediaries coming on stream first. You ask whether there will be more. In fact, we are anticipating quite a number of batches. We only have just started. We'll try out the first batch to see how we go, and then we'll invite other people to become the intermediaries.
So you mean you will have intermediaries first? So when will the first batch of intermediaries when will they be secured? Middle of this year, according to our estimation, we will issue these invitations very soon, and we estimate that this will take around half a year, and later the interested groups can apply for our scheme. Thank you to the government delegations. The third and final item on the agenda. As you know, our subcommittee is also for a year, and we will have to stop in February. So our next meeting will be in March, and the Secretariat will notify you of the specific date later. So let's talk about what we will discuss on the next meeting. Lee Chuk-yan mentioned ethnic minorities, so you can see this has been included on the agenda for next time. If you have no other comments, I want to confirm this agenda. Ethnic minorities are very closely linked to our work as the SCP. So next time I will invite the chairman and vice chairman of the subcommittee next time. And for the site visits to Taiwan and Japan, we have covered them today. However, we haven't shared the detailed reports with you. So after some tidying up, we will share the comments from these 3 meetings. We will summarize these opinions and pass them on to the House Committee. Any questions from Lee Chuk-yan? If not, we will have these, let's confirm these topics. Thank you, everyone.